Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 506. My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk movies and movie obsession and movie lists with you for the next hour. Zach, how's it going?
It's going great, James. How are you doing?
Good. I like the we always ask each other how it's going, and listeners just, I guess they're to assume we haven't actually greeted each other at least minutes before we hit record. It's such a fake greeting because we've already greeted each other, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So are you suggesting we should say, I'm still looking at you?
Yeah. You should say the next time, Kyle's not on. When Kyle next week says, how's it going, guys? Just be like, you already know how it's going, dummy.
Don't ask us that again. You fake friend.
Right.
I'm going to do that.
What is this? Performance theater?
Yeah. Okay.
That being said, how's it going, Zach?
I'm not getting into it again, James.
All right. Good to hear.
If you forgot already.
I did. I have a short attention deficit. See, I can't even remember what I have. That's how bad I am at my attention deficit disorders. Welcome to the podcast. Kyle is not here, as we mentioned. He is just too busy for this podcast. He's taking the week off. He said, I really wanted to talk about these movies, but can't make it because I'm just too busy.
Well, it's Thanksgiving week. It's family time. I get that.
Blah blah blah. Whatever.
He's a busy man. This guy is a world shaker.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think Kyle is a world shaker.
Yeah,
rump
sure.
shaker.
I've always thought of it.
World shaker. I've never heard of world shaker.
I invented the term, inspired by Kyle and his lifestyle.
Oh, okay. Kyle's lifestyle is so unique. You had to invent a term to describe it.
Just, can you think of an existing term?
Can I think of an existing term that exists, Kyle, that exists, that describes Kyle's current existence?
Yeah, he's a world shaker.
I can only think of one.
Carl?
It's the only word I can think of.
Yeah, he's a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, he's shaking the world right now. Can't be on the show. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. We'll every now and then give a Kyle-inspired opinion.
What'd you say?
We'll give a Kyle-inspired opinion every now and then.
Absolutely, but only when he's not here, for sure.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. We're going to get into 2 movies this week. We're going to talk at length about 2 streaming movies, King Richard and Tick, Tick, Boom. Before we do that, we need to do a little bit of housekeeping. There's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. If you hadn't heard, go to youtube.com, search Cinereelists, REEL with an S on the end. You'll find our... Say what?
James, every week you say we have to do housekeeping.
Right.
And then you talk about the video podcast. Right. And all it does is make me think like, man, I need to do housekeeping. My room is so messy.
You really...
And if they do go to the video like you're asking them to, they're going to see my messy room.
Your room is not that messy.
It's pretty messy.
It's not that messy. So go check out Zach's messy room. By watching one of our YouTube versions of the podcast on YouTube. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support the podcast, get extra after show audio, get some DVD commentaries. There's all kinds of goodness over at Patreon. Check that out. Also, leave us an Apple Podcasts review. 5 stars only. Leave a little bit of text. We'll discuss it on the podcast. And another way to get discussed on the podcast is to send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. We got an email this week. This one is from good old Troy Carruthers. from Canada. Super fan of the podcast and frequent emailer. Troy writes, "Hey guys, before I get into my last 10 top 10, I wanted, it should be top 10 last 10. Troy, that's what threw me off. You wrote it wrong. It's
No,
top
he's
10 last
fine.
10.
He's fine.
He's not fine. Top 10 last 10. All right. Don't email again unless you're going to
At some
get it
point,
right.
we need to have it out about that, because I think I could make a good case for.
Oh, I think
what I
we've
say.
had it out enough on this topic.
We must not have, because you still are wrong.
Troy writes, before I get into I'm going to correct it for him. Top 10, last 10.
Wait, hold on. You're censoring?
I'm not censoring. I'm fixing the grammar.
You're changing. You're fixing the grammar.
Look, the dirty little secret about when I read email is occasionally I fix grammar. For the writer's sake, I don't want them to look silly. And in this case, I'm just making sure Troy doesn't look silly. All right?
Oh, man.
Troy
Okay.
continues, I wanted to share a link to a blog post I wrote on movies that, quote, we love to hate, end quote. There are movies that people seem to love to diss. There are some movies that I think deserve it, but I defend others. You have talked about guilty pleasure movies, but maybe there is a list you all could do on movies that you stand behind that seem popular to hate. And then he provides a link to his movie blog, which I will put in the description of this episode if you'd like to follow along. This is Troy's article, Movies We Love to Hate. He's got some movies on here that people love to hate. Have you ever seen Catwoman from 2004?
I have.
You have. Do you love to hate it?
I don't care about it enough
Yeah.
to feel an emotion. Yeah.
I don't really think about Catwoman. Although
Yeah,
I did just last night watch a movie starring Halle Berry, directed by Halle Berry. And there was a moment when I was watching the movie where I was like, I can't believe this is the same person that did Catwoman. Because it's just such, like, Catwoman was a movie that's all about Halle Berry in the lead role. And the entire movie kind of hinges on her. Well, with Catwoman, it hinged on the script quite a bit. But in this case, the entire movie definitely hinged on Halle Berry's ability to not only pull off the performance, but also pull off the direction. And yeah, she's just come a long way since Catwoman, I guess.
Well, she was already there. Catwoman was an anomaly. Can I give you a hot take, though?
Sure.
I think Michelle Pfeiffer in the second Batman movie is just as bad as Halle Berry and Catwoman.
They're both kind of campy.
Super campy.
Sure. But Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns, right?
Yeah.
She's not all the movie has to offer.
I gotcha.
Whereas in Catwoman with Halle Berry, it's just, there wasn't much of a movie there, I would say.
Okay. That makes sense.
Short of Halle Berry, being in the Catwoman suit and doing her thing. So his next movie he has is Cats from 2019, which I don't think either of us have seen, right?
No.
Although I do agree that seems like a movie people love because they like to hate it, for sure.
Yeah.
Jack and Jill from 2011, the Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah.
Never seen it.
I never saw it.
Yeah. Batman and Robin from 1997.
I think I do like that movie.
I think people ironically love it. I don't hear too many people who actually hate that movie or love to hate it. They think it's awful, and it is.
Yeah.
And but it's kind of charming in its awfulness.
Hold on. Can I ask just a basic question about what this list is?
Sure.
Is this a movies that are so bad they're good, or is this a movie that like we take pleasure in hating?
I think the premises take pleasure in hating.
Okay.
Although I don't do that with movies. I don't take pleasure in disliking movies. I want movies to be good.
For sure. I mean, there are movies that I hate, but I take no pleasure in it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
What kind of a jerk takes pleasure in movies being bad.
What?
Like legitimately, I'm not talking about movies that you get that the badness is what's good about it. I'm talking about you see a movie fail, not even in a good way, and you're like, ha, ha, yes, exactly what I wanted out of this.
You're
Like,
rooting against it.
we'll see if this is on his list, but like the 2016 Ghostbusters, right? The all-female reboot of Ghostbusters. I think people literally enjoyed the fact that that movie was not good because it's proved some weird, point that they had that the Ghostbusters can't be ladies or something like that. So I do think there's movies where people get pleasure out of something being bad, and I don't understand it. I'm not sure you can really be a fan of film and have that attitude. Well, that's just me. Next up, the Twilight Saga.
Okay. I still have not seen any Twilights.
I think you should watch them.
I'm not opposed to it.
I think you'd be into it. I think watching them back to back would be a totally different experience than how I saw them, which was in movie theaters as they were released.
How many are there?
There's 4.
Okay.
And the first 2 are like, they're not like Harry Potter movies or even Star Wars movies where they just get longer as they go. Like pretty much all those movies were like a tight 2 hours or less. So you could kind of watch it like a mini series at this point, as opposed to having it dragged out for you. He also lists Crash from 2004, which won the Best Picture Oscar.
I legitimately really like Crash.
I have fond memories of Crash, but I have not seen it, and I have heard people take it down since then.
They
So-
took it down then, though. I haven't heard anyone revisit it and take it down. Have you?
Yeah. Like I don't know when I read this, but I read an article that was like the worst Oscar Best Picture nominees, and Crash was like number 1 because not only was it a nominee, but it won.
Sure.
I think
I
around
feel-
around the time Green Book won, that's when I read this article.
Sure. But I feel like that was the narrative when Crash won. People were like, oh, I can't believe they picked Crash over what, Brokeback Mountain?
I believe it was Brokeback Mountain. Yeah. I mean, my pick is Shakespeare in Love. I mean, that movie's perfectly fine, but Best Picture, come on.
I agree that it's not really the type of movie that wins Best Picture, but it's such a good movie.
I didn't say it wasn't a watchable movie, but it's not a Best Picture for sure. Avatar 2009.
That's maybe a love to hate movie.
Do you love to hate Avatar?
No, that doesn't really describe how I feel about any movie, but I think it is it's a movie that's worth making fun of for a lot of different reasons.
Sure, but it's also a movie that I don't even think people make fun of. Like the only thing people make fun of with Avatar is like the fact that the sequel has taken so long. That has nothing to do with the original movie. You know what I mean? I don't think people really think about Avatar for the
They
most part. Master of Disguise from 2002, which is a Dana Carvey movie where he's like a master of disguise. I don't know what he is. I've never seen it.
Sure. I've never seen it.
The only thing I know about Master of Disguise is that I believe it's very, very short. Like barely 60 minutes or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
It's like nearly a short film. 1964, My Fair Lady. Now,
I did not know this movie was considered a love to hate.
yeah, I've never heard that about My Fair Lady, but
I know Troy hates it. I'm pretty sure he hates it.
he says, mostly my issue is this: I can't forgive this movie for ruining Audrey Hepburn for me.
Wow. He'd let a movie ruin Audrey Hepburn for him?
Yes. I've never seen My Fair Lady. What have you seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Did it ruin Audrey Hepburn for you?
No, I like My Fair Lady.
I can't imagine. I mean, there's nothing to ruin because I don't really think about Audrey Hepburn, but I can't imagine it would completely ruin. I mean, if Halle Berry can get past Catwoman, I'm pretty sure Audrey Hepburn got past My Fair Lady.
Well,
like a classic.
There's nothing to get past. It's not like a blemish on her career.
Right. Exactly. That movie's so well liked. It's like one of the few old movies from that era that they've invested in putting out on 4K, like media right now, which seemed like an odd pick to me, but I mean, it's My Fair Lady. I haven't even seen it. I know the name of it at least.
Wow.
Final
James.
Final pick. We're just totally ruining his blog post, but final pick. The Island of Dr. Moreau from 1996.
Yeah. This movie's an experience for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely don't love to hate Island of Dr. Moreau. I find it an oddity, but an interesting one, even if it's not my favorite movie ever. Troy included his top 10, last 10. Coming in at number 10, he put Old at 1.5 stars.
Yeah, you guys hated that movie.
I don't hate movies. I disliked it, but
You don't hate movies?
I don't hate movies. No.
There's no movies you hate?
No.
How did I not know this after 500 episodes?
I don't. Have you ever heard me say I hate a movie? I don't use those words. Hate's a strong word.
Yeah, what
I hate
movies
racism.
should evoke strong emotions.
I don't hate movies.
What about a racist movie?
I hate murderers. Not movies.
Man.
His number 9, You Can't Take It With You from 1938. You ever seen that one?
Yeah.
2.5. Does that sound about right?
Let me see what I rated it.
Okay. Tom Jones, 3 stars. West Side Story, 3 stars. No Time to Die, 3.5, which was pretty much on par with what we said. Val, which is the Val Kilmer documentary that I saw, and
I saw it
and enjoyed. You saw it too?
Yep.
Nice. The Holiday from 2006, 3.5, which I think that's the Jack Black and others movie, maybe.
I gave You Can't Take It With You 4.5 stars.
Full 2 stars more than Troy here.
Yeah.
So you and Troy disagree on You Can't Take It With You and Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady.
Yes.
His number 3, The Harder They Fall, which is a movie we talked about on this very podcast an episode or 2 ago. Happiest Season from 2020, 4 stars. Wow, this one surprised me. My wife wanted to see it, and I didn't expect to like it much at all. It wasn't perfect, but it was both hilarious and heartwarming. It was at the movie with what's her name from that other movie, from Twilight.
Kristen Stewart.
Kristen Stewart, right? Isn't Kristen Stewart?
It was that movie. Yes, it was that movie.
We had talked about doing that movie for our Christmas movie episode, which we haven't discussed doing this year. Are we not doing that this year?
We haven't discussed it. The problem is a lot of movies come out in December that we want to talk about on the show.
Right.
All the way up to Christmas. So I don't know what you want to do by that.
Well, maybe we just give a week for like a movie to be in theaters and give people longer to get to it. And, we'll talk about it the week after and we'll do a Christmas episode in between or something. I don't know. But I wanted to see that last year and pretty sure you poo-pooed it. And then you questioned why there were like lesbian movies on my list, or there were like 2 or 3. Like 2 or 3 gay themed movies on my list, and you were like, why are you picking all these movies? And I was like, that's what's available. I don't know. Do you remember this at all?
I don't remember this at all.
Maybe it was Kyle. Somebody questioned like why half my suggestions were these types of movies, and I was like, this is just what's on Netflix, man. I don't know. It's got a good Rotten Tomato meter. I don't know what to say. His number 1, 5 star. He gave this movie 5 stars, Zach. Out in 2021, a movie called Belfast.
Never heard of it.
Which is on my list. I think it's on a streamer right now. And haven't heard anything about it other than what Troy just put in his email, which is that this is number one. And I lie. It's absolutely not on a streamer, but it is in theaters right now in Orlando. It's a semi-autobiographical film which chronicles the life of a working-class family in their young son's childhood during the tumult of the late 1960s in the Northern Ireland capital. Sounds like I would not watch that without a bunch of hype.
Okay.
It does have an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's only an hour and 37 minutes long.
Short and sweet.
Not bad. All right. That's it for Troy's email. Thank you for the email, Troy. We appreciate it. With that, let's jump into our main event movies for the week. The first movie we will be discussing is a movie on HBO Max, streaming right now, or at least for the next 2 weeks or so. It's also in theaters. It's a movie called King Richard. Here's a clip.
Where are we practicing today, Daddy?
Yeah, where are we practicing today?
Well, we going someplace special today.
These houses are huge.
Yes, that one looks like a castle.
You all like these houses?
Yes.
Look, that one looks like the White House.
Which one? Which one you like? What's your favorite?
I like that one.
Yeah, that one's nice. If that was my house, I'd put a pool in the front and a slide on the roof.
We'll put your
And then
pool
we'd
in
have
the
a big
front.
pool party, and everybody's gonna want to come to my house.
Oh, you just gonna be the crazy lady on the block.
Oh, I'm gonna be the coolest person on the block. That one has a tennis court.
Oh, that's the one then. That's the one.
That was King Richard, an American biographical drama film directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, starring Will Smith, Anna Anjanae Ellis, Sanaya Sidney, Demi Singleton, Tony Goldwyn, and John Barenthal. The official IMDb plot synopsis for King Richard is a look at how tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams became who they are after the coaching from their father, Richard Williams. Now, this is a movie that I saw when it came out on HBO Max, like about 2 weeks ago. And I asked you if you had seen it yet, and you were like, nah, no interest in King Richard.
Yes.
And I don't even think I got out of you why, but I was like, I think you could watch this. I think you could have a good time watching King Richard. It's not going to be, your favorite movie of the year, but it's pretty easy watch, an interesting watch. And then you said, the problem is I don't like Venus Williams. Right? Isn't that what you said?
That's half the reason.
Okay. Is it Venus or Serena? Which one do you not like?
I don't know. I think Serena.
You don't like the one that has won everything, right? Like there's one that is certainly good and has won a lot, and then the other one has won everything for like.
I think
dominated.
Venus was the first one to like be the top, but then Serena is considered like the best ever.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So, knowing all this baggage you have with the Williams girls, what do you think about King Richard?
Well, my main hang up was that there's a movie called King Richard, and it's not about King Richard the Lionheart.
That's true. You did mention that as well.
Yes, that's the real reason, because every time I saw the name for a split second, you think it is. And I was like, I want to watch a movie about King Richard the Lionheart. And it's not. It's about just a man named Richard.
Yeah, there haven't been enough movies about King Richard the Lionheart. We need one more instead of the first one about this other guy.
Well, name a movie about King Richard the Lionheart.
I don't know. There's got to be a movie out there with him.
Oh, there
in
are.
it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you said this movie was very watchable.
Yeah.
So I watched it with my wife, and it's very watchable.
Sure.
For sure. Yeah. This movie's definitely a good watch
Mhm.
for sure. You know, the acting is very charismatic, you know, in
Mhm.
the way that you really care for the girls. And Will Smith is doing like a voice,
Mhm.
but it's I would say it's endearing, not distracting.
Yeah, it's oddly not distracting because sometimes when
Yeah.
he is not Will Smith on screen, it's very distracting. But for some reason in this one, it was easy to sink into.
It really was easy to sink into for
Mhm.
sure. Um yeah, and so the story I knew absolutely nothing about.
Mhm.
Um
Oh, you had
so
no idea that like he was a little bit of like a stage dad when it came to.
n- no clue.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know his personality whatsoever or
Mhm.
that he was an influence in his daughter's career or anything like that.
Mhm.
I just knew nothing. And so even when the movie's following a formula that, you know, all these kind of sports movies take,
Mhm.
I didn't, you know, I just thought it's okay, we're following a formula kind of a
Sure.
thing. And so if it deviates that from that at all, those came as surprises for me. Um that being said, I mean, it's a little odd to have such a glowing puff piece of a movie about like someone who's alive today and like I don't know, were they involved in the production at all? The Williams family?
That's a good question. I would be shocked if Will Smith took on this without some kind of family permission, just because he does not seem like the type who would do an entire movie about a guy who's alive without their permission in some controversial way. But maybe, I don't know. Let's see, production. I don't know, but Will Smith reportedly received $40 million for this movie.
He also reportedly just divvied it up among the actors as like a thank you.
Oh, weird. Why would you do that?
What do you mean?
It's just a weird thing to do.
Like a nice thing to do?
It's nice, but it's weird, right? It's not something that's done often.
Well, here's the thing. Will Smith doesn't need the money. He's fine.
Right, but why doesn't
And
he do that on every movie then?
every other actor in that movie, this is like their first big thing, right? Like he's giving it to like, you know, 14-year-old girls and you know, like it's like go for it, man.
Why not just negotiate the contract as a cast and they get paid what they get paid and he gets paid what he gets paid? And if he wants to negotiate higher salaries for them, then do that. But why get your big payday and then hand it out like you're literally King Richard, just like I'm the king here. I made 40, but I'm gonna share it with you guys
Well,
because
here's the thing.
I'm benevolent Will Smith.
It's probably much easier for him to negotiate a high salary for himself than for like, you know, people that would normally get 200,000 and that's it, you know,
Oh,
even though they have starring roles.
sure. Well,
Second,
they could have negotiated as a cast. The Friends did that. It worked very well, even though Phoebe probably wouldn't have gotten as much if they hadn't done that.
So you think what Will Smith should have done is said like, look, before we sign a contract, I want to do it as a cast and everyone on this list should get $5 million.
You don't think he could
Or
have said,
walk.
"Look, you guys want to give me 40 million for this, but I think that my cast members deserve some of that money. So, as a part of my contract, I want 20 of that to go to me and the other 20 right into the contract. You're paying them. I'm not giving them my money. You're paying them."
What's the difference? What's the practical difference?
The difference is donating money to other people versus them feeling like they earned that money, right? One is like a benevolent thing to do. Another is like, I don't need 40 million. I need 20. And since you guys have 40, a stipulation is that you pay them more than you would have paid them.
I don't get it, man.
To get me, you pay them more than you are going to.
whether he sticks up for them in the negotiation or sticks up for them at the end or just like giving them what they should have been paid, it's the exact same thing.
I think there's
One
a
is-
difference there.
They wouldn't have gotten that either way if he had not done what he did.
Also, by accepting the 40 million and then gifting them money, double taxed. What's the point of that?
Then they don't, I don't know.
He got taxed.
They don't have to pay
Then they
taxes.
got taxed. If it had just gone directly to them, which I'm assuming it didn't, then only taxed once.
Only taxed with double taxation.
Yeah, no double taxation without representation.
I think that movie money is very difficult. And he has star power. He knows he can get that money for himself and then use it how he wants. As opposed to like maybe he'd negotiate salaries for them, but it'd get lost in the profit margin of the movie and the funny accounting, and they would never see that money. And so he's like, oh,
how do we know he gave away 20 million? Where did you read this?
it's just it's a trivia note on IMDb. So it's probably not true, or he like gave some of it or something.
Is it related to an article? Like, I'm curious, did he say that he did this? Because to me, that's the difference. Like, you could, behind closed doors, be like, look, I'm going to make a lot of money on this. I want to make sure all these like lesser known actors who are great, they should make good money on it too. And so, you know, a condition of me doing this is that you pay them more. You know what I mean? You make up for that 20 that I'm not taking by distributing it to the rest of the cast. Pay them well on this one, better than you were going to. And then like nobody ever says a word about that. There's a huge difference between that and like taking a paycheck at 40 million and then somehow it gets out that you gave away half your paycheck to the young cast because
Okay,
you're benevolent
James.
Will Smith.
James, listen to this.
Yes.
This movie was originally going to be in theaters.
Right.
Then after it's already made, everyone's been paid or going to be paid or whatever, it gets announced that it's going to be a streaming and in theaters.
Right.
And so he cut the check to the actors that didn't have in their contracts this, you know, like that they would be paid extra because of the streaming.
So he made up for their
Loss because it was going to be streaming as well.
So he took his already negotiated 40 million.
Yes.
And made up the difference in what they would have predicted it would have done.
He personally wrote checks to the cast to compensate his fellow actors for loss of earnings from the film's theatrical run because it was on streaming.
Right. But he did that well after he made 40 million.
Yes.
So if the movie had come out in theaters, he would not have done that and he would have gone home with $40 million.
Yeah. Apparently.
That brings me a little closer to saying Will Smith is not a total tool here.
Total tool, man. Hard
I mean,
to please you.
Okay. This is gonna feel like a 180, but why should he have to do that? Shouldn't Warner Brothers be doing that?
He doesn't have to do anything.
That's what
It's
I mean.
It's just a nice thing to do. What, are you mad at Keanu Reeves for buying motorcycles for the cast of Matrix?
Yeah, I am.
Or the crew?
I'm pretty upset about that. I didn't know about it until you just said it, but now I'm mad about it. Thanks a lot.
Keanu Reeves from the first Matrix bought like some of the crew Harleys to thank them for their work on the Matrix.
Yeah, after it was like a huge success.
What a jerk.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As guilt right there. He's like, I got paid way too much for what this movie is. And
he's just a good guy.
He bought people motorcycles. I feel like we're getting away from the movie itself, but
yeah, okay.
You think Will Smith is a good guy?
No.
I don't either.
I don't.
I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's just a guy who has good qualities and bad qualities, like all of us.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do in my head kind of separate celebrities into 2 or 3 categories of like, I think these people are probably genuinely nice people that I would get along with. And then these people are like fake people that like have PR campaigns to make them seem palatable, but like they're insecure jerks in real life.
Hey, you think Will Smith is in that latter category?
No, but
Okay.
he's probably in that middle category of like, I haven't formed an opinion, or maybe he's not a strong one either way.
Mhm.
I think he's not just like a normal dude. You know what I mean? Or the fame hasn't got to him. He's a famous guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the vast majority of his life, he's been famous. Like he was like 18 or 19 when he broke out as a rapper. So
Yeah.
he hasn't had much of his life where he wasn't in the public eye, which doesn't make you a bad person. It's just reality. Like, I don't know. Okay, so King Richard, we've called this movie watchable or easy to watch. We said Will Smith's performance is easy to get into.
It's
but
good. No,
also-
I think this movie is a fun watch. It's 2.5 hours long. It's super long. I don't know if it has to be that long. But I was totally engaged.
Mhm.
I was enjoying it. I really liked the journey of this film.
Yeah. I also like the dynamic of the King Richard character and his wife, and like how they tackled things, how she dealt with him, while also like she could have been super defiant at certain moments, but instead she let him dig his own grave and then she would help him dig out of it, type of thing.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
that. I thought that was a very realistic portrayal of a complicated relationship. And I really liked the child acting, like the very subtle performances from many different ages of kids who were in this
Yeah.
movie. And when you consider there were like 3 or 4 versions of each of the sisters, it's amazing.
What do you mean? There
Like,
were?
Yeah, different ages.
I think they were the same actresses.
Was it the same actress through it? Well, then the de-aging, however they did that, whether that was perspective or
there's no digital
there's
de-aging.
definitely time that passes where kids
Just
change
their
their
haircut.
look. I'm not talking about digital de-aging. I'm talking about the way they shot the kids, how many
Sure, yeah.
lines they gave them. You know what I mean? They like built
Yeah.
it to the
Oh,
point
for
where
sure. Yeah.
you felt like they were growing up in front of you.
Yeah.
And by the time she's taking the stage, she's like 15, and when the movie starts, she's like 9 or something like that. And I think they just did that really well. If they did that with one actress, that's really impressive, because I was like, at the end of the movie, I was like, I didn't even realize they switched actresses. Maybe they didn't. You're telling me they didn't? I'm going to assume that's true. But the fact that you've got like 2 sisters, and you could keep them straight, you know what I mean? And yeah, and it was like just a well-told story. You do wonder, like, so if this was an unauthorized version of it, if there would have been a little more like dad being so intensive. Like, they play the movie like the daughters are always okay with the level of intensity or
Yeah.
level of pressure that he's putting on them. And maybe that is the situation. You and I will never know. But you can see a different version of this story where he's being just as intense as those other, like, there's a moment in the movie where he's critical of parents who berate their kids. But there are moments in the movie where he's doing the same thing, just not doing it in front of a bunch of other kids and in front of a bunch of other parents. And maybe not as bad, but you wonder just how much of that is like, well, we can't make him unlikable. So even if that's how it went down in real life, that can't be the movie. We got to make him the better version of that. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a criticism of the movie. I just wonder how much of this is softballed.
I mean, the truth is, for him, I guess it worked, right? How incredibly focused and disciplined and hard on the girls he was.
Mhm.
But for every one of him, there's 100,000 dads that are just as intense and hard on their kids, and nothing comes of it.
Right.
and it's just a huge sad waste, you know?
Sure.
And so I guess it worked for them, but like we don't see the movie of the people where it was just an awful childhood because they pushed them so hard and then nothing came of it.
Hmm. Yeah, and you wonder if the movie saying that they had like a God-given ability from birth and he just recognized it and was so sure of it that like he made sure that they had every opportunity, or is the movie saying that if you raise a child right in a very specific way that they can develop a skill that would make
The
them the
second
best
one.
tennis star in the year?
The second one, because he even says in the movie, that's why we picked tennis.
That's true. Yeah.
Like it was an engineered kind of like, I'm going to make a champion of this sport.
Mhm. Yeah.
One thing I want to say about the acting, there's a lot of scripts that say like, okay, this group of kids is gonna be having a great time setting the table for dinner and they all have to giggle and make each other laugh, you know?
Mhm.
And it's super forced. Like this, like girls are having a great time giggling with each other kind of a thing.
And you're like,
This
kids
movie
do
was
not act that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not in this way. It's way too careful and joyful, you know?
Mhm.
This movie, the girls are giggling while they're doing stuff and it totally felt real to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you wonder at that age if you just kind of put the camera on them and let them do what they're going to do and then like encourage them to be excited type of thing.
Yeah.
Or if they actually had lines during
Yeah.
that scene.
Now, James, as you know, I'm not a tennis professional.
Me neither. Yep. As you know.
But one thing that struck me about this movie is, so you know, the child actors that played Venus and Serena did have to play a lot of tennis on screen.
Right.
You know, I was expecting them to look like they were better than they were. I didn't. It didn't seem like they're playing world class tennis on screen.
But you don't even watch tennis. You don't know what world class tennis looks like.
For
Nor
sure, I
were they
don't-
playing world class tennis. They were the vast majority of the movie. They were not playing world class tennis. They were
No, they
training.
were always, but they were playing world class tennis. Just no one else knew they were.
But like when they're training, they're not playing world class tennis. There's only like one or two scenes where they're actually playing in a game. One of them's like a juniors game. The one at the end is the only one where they're in an actual tennis match.
No. Yeah, the stakes of being world class are not there, but like if they're the best in the world and they're playing in their backyard, right? It's the best player in the world playing in their backyard.
So you think that people who are world class tennis players, when they're playing in their backyard, they're playing world class tennis?
Yes.
Always.
No.
Because they're world class tennis people, they're always playing world class tennis.
Not always, but I would say if I'm saying if LeBron James is practicing in his backyard, he's going to look pretty skilled. It's going to look really good. You're not going to look at him and be like, yeah, he's fine, I guess. Whereas these girls, like, really at no point did I be like, whoa, they are very talented. How did they get these actresses to be so good at tennis? It just seemed like, oh, they taught these actresses how to play tennis, but they didn't seem to me like they were amazing at tennis. Did they strike you as amazing at tennis?
I mean, the movie told me they were amazing at tennis. I don't know
Sure.
enough about tennis to know what good tennis is versus like world class tennis. You know, I know what bad tennis looks like. You miss the ball a lot. But good tennis versus world class tennis, I couldn't tell you the difference. But I can tell you, not that I'm a big sports guy or ever was, but when I played basketball in high school, there was a difference between practice and playing a game. Absolutely. There was a difference. When I swam on the swim team in high school, there was a difference between practice and when that whistle blew for an actual race. And I'm not saying that when they set out to make this movie, they delineated a line like this is practice, this is when it actually matters. But in real life, in my shallow experience that happened 20 years ago, absolutely there was a difference between how you performed and the intensity of a practice versus actually when it mattered. I'm
Well, James,
assuming that with tennis,
obviously,
people, that's how it
obviously.
Right.
But when she's like competing in the juniors, is she, giving 25% effort or is she giving 100% effort?
I think she's giving 100%. She's just a junior.
But
She's a good
that's the
junior.
thing. She wasn't just a junior. She was already one of the best in the world at that point. Just no one knew it.
Right. But she was good because she was good and she could blow away any other junior, but she wasn't good enough to do what she does at the end of the movie. Right.
Right.
Which is not a spoiler. And so there's like a 2-3 year gap between what happens at juniors and when you get to the end of the movie.
Agreed.
Because he doesn't allow her to compete because she's getting better and better and better. And he doesn't want to see a progression. He wants her to go from nobody knows who she is. Not necessarily nobody knows, but he doesn't want her to lose and then win and lose and win and get better over time. He wants her to go and dominate from day one. So I think there is a skill gap. I don't know if the movie explained this very well, but I think there's definitely going to be a skill gap between the juniors win and the final battle.
Yeah,
of
but
the movie.
even in the final battle, anyway, there was no point where I was like, wow, how did they get this actress to be this good at tennis? It just seemed like they're playing tennis to me as a non-tennis professional.
I don't know.
Did you get a different vibe?
Between the leg shots? I mean, what are you looking for here?
No, in
They're
any
going to
other
reach
sports
out
movie,
and hit the ball back and forth. It's tennis.
in any other sports movie, I feel like there's these moments where like, oh, wow, this is clearly when they switch to a body double who's incredibly good at the sport and did this something that's obviously good. Even in ballet movies, they switch to the ballet dancer who does something that's incredibly impressive. I didn't get that moment.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this movie was not about the 3-point shot from half court. It was more about can she do the impossible?
It's just, what I'm saying is it never convinced me that she was the best player in the world. She never seemed like anything like obviously special from what the tennis that I saw. Now, I would love for a tennis player listener to write in and be like, no, you're crazy. She was doing the Wilson backhand, on Vegar,
Yeah,
that I've never seen before.
For people listening to this lunacy, the movie shoots a tennis match from the court level. It never pulls out and shows you a full exchange between two players of tennis. It's all like quick, motion heavy, shaky cam during the tennis scenes. I don't know how you can evaluate somebody's tennis game based on little half-second snippets of footage cut together in rapid succession. I mean, it's not the same as watching a tennis match on TV, right?
Well, sure. Yeah.
So how could you be impressed or unimpressed? There's no
Have you
context
you've
for how
never
well they're
watched
doing
a
in the match other than the emotionality of what's going on.
You've never watched a sports movie about like an incredible athlete and gotten the sense that like they were really, really good at the sport by like actually them playing the sport.
Yeah, I have. I got that from this movie. They
did?
They do a very good job of giving you the emotions of somebody who has asked for this, right? Has worked for this, is now going for this, starts out, does very well, and then more of the movie happens, right?
Sure.
And then you're like, maybe this won't come out the way they wanted.
Were you just sitting there wondering, like, how did this actress get this good at tennis in order to shoot this movie?
No,
like she
I
must
was
have
not
spent
wondering
years.
that. I wasn't
She
thinking
must have
about that
spent
at
years
all.
practicing.
I was emotionally invested in what was going on. It did not matter to me how well they shot the tennis and whether I could tell whether she had a better backhand than the other person. That is not the point of what they were trying to show.
Sure.
I don't know. I can't believe you're nitpicking the tennis skills.
Hold on. No, hold on.
When you don't even know what you're
about-
talking about.
A movie about the best tennis player in the world,
Mm-hmm.
I would think would have impressive tennis.
It's not about the best tennis player in the world. It's about the person who becomes the best tennis player in the world.
Yeah.
Right? That's not what the movie itself is not about Venus and Serena Williams at their height. Has nothing to do with that. It's all about before they were at their height.
I know, but they're already in the upper echelon. I mean, they might not be number 1 at this point, but they're number 13. I mean, that's.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
The movie never says that, so I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, but she's playing the best in the world.
She's playing the best in the world, and she hasn't played in like 3 years, 2 to 3 years, they say in the movie.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody knows how good she is.
Well, that's the point of the movie.
Right.
But I don't think the movie wants you to be wondering at the end, oh, maybe she's the 1,000th worst player in like.
But by the end of the movie, you were wondering that?
No, I'm saying you're absolutely not wondering that.
That's what I'm saying.
She's clearly one of the best in the world.
That was the point of the movie, is so you walk around thinking, oh, she's clearly in a similar league.
That's what I'm saying, James. What I'm saying is the movie told us that. They made us feel that, but they didn't show us that. They didn't show best in the world tennis.
Let me ask you a question. Did they show her opponent as the best in the world?
No.
Because it wasn't about showing somebody's backhand or how far they can stretch or how reactive they are to the ball.
Just saying.
Because that's watching a tennis match. This is not watching a tennis match. It's watching a movie that has a tennis match in it.
There's a lot of tennis in this movie.
There's really not that much. I bet if you rewatched it and clicked that clicker every time a tennis ball was hit, and the point was them playing tennis, not having a discussion and having to, hitting balls back and forth, I bet you there's very little tennis in the movie.
I'm just saying every sports movie has training montages where you see them get better and better and better. And like all of a sudden now he's like throwing the ball so hard that it, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And this movie barely had that. And there was just never a point where I was like, oh, she is really good. I can tell.
I agree that the movie barely had that. And that's because the point of view in this movie, maybe not point of view, but the subject of this movie was secondarily Venus and Serena Williams. And
because you're saying it's about Will Smith's
King
character.
Richard, right? And the movie is named after the main character of the movie.
Yeah.
And how he shepherded his daughters to championship tennis, essentially, against all odds, according to the movie. Decided this was going to be something his kids did and found a way to make it happen for 2 of them. And that has nothing to do with detailing the progression of Venus and Serena Williams' front game.
I love how you're saying how secondary is their ability to play tennis to the movie of their.
You're acting like the movie showed Venus and Serena Williams as children or as on the cusp of world champions, and they can't play tennis. Like they're bad at tennis. They're not bad at tennis.
They're not bad.
They're perfectly fine at tennis. Good enough for you to get the point.
Even Cool Runnings, you see them get better at bobsledding.
You see them get better at tennis.
I know, but
it's very clear from the beginning of the movie to the end that she's better at tennis. Not only have they shown it occasionally, but they've certainly told you over and over and over that she's getting better.
I just wanted a couple times where I'm like, whoa, that was good. I just didn't get that. And I didn't know why they didn't include that.
Yeah, I don't know. This is so not about the movie, other than you wanted moments where Venus Williams probably showed off, was clearly better than her opponent, even though that happens in the movie.
Where a non-tennis watcher,
right?
It's instantly apparent to them that like, oh, she is that good. They're as good as they're saying.
What would that be for you? What could that have looked like?
Maybe a really clever trick shot where it like
right. You wanted a between the legs shot or something like that.
No, just like a strategy shot where like someone's running up at the net and then she she barely like if you did a volleyball movie, you could show someone spiking the ball over the net in a way that's like, oh, they're really strong, you know? Whatever the equivalent of that for tennis.
I'm pretty sure they showed that a couple times, especially in that last match. They
No,
showed
they did.
moments where
They did have moments of
she
that.
was outclassing her opponent.
Yes. And what it seemed like was like a really good high school player beating a medium high school player. It didn't seem like the 10th best in the world outclassing the second best in the world.
Yeah, I don't know what movie you were watching, man. I absolutely believe that was a world-class tennis match. I don't know what a world-class tennis match looks like, but they built the environment enough for me to accept that that's what it looks like. So I don't know what to tell you.
Sure. Can I say one criticism of the film?
Sure.
Uh as far as it being like totally watchable and enjoyable, I would
Mhm.
say it absolutely is that. But the dad definitely exhibits some of the same kind of gambling behavior
Mhm.
that makes Uncut Gems uncomfortable to watch.
Sure. Yeah.
And the whole thing is, it works out, right?
Mhm.
So like every time he says no or like passes on something, it does undercut the unease a little bit because it's going to work out fine in the end.
Mhm.
But if you didn't know that, it absolutely would be so uncomfortable, just like watching Uncut Gems. It's like he's getting so close and you really feel like he is putting them on the line,
Mhm.
all this work on the line. And I guess it works out fine, but it just feels like, oh man, you are gambling here.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like an unnecessary roll of the dice, for sure. But yeah, it does. It would have been nice if there was at least one instance of it not working out. You know what I mean? And then he can come back, but at least there weren't many setbacks in this movie.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how it happened in real life. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Can I say something positive about the movie?
Yes.
One of my favorite things about this movie is the performance from John Barenthal. He plays kind of the second coach, the one that gives them a house to live in and all that other stuff. He in this movie was just amazing to me. He just absolutely is playing against everything else that I've ever seen him in. He's the guy, John Barenthal, if you don't remember, is like the guy who picks up what's her name from Sicario.
That's him. Yeah. Emily Blunt.
He picks up Emily Blunt in the bar. She takes him home and he gets beat up, I think, by her coworkers or something. I don't remember. So he's in that. He was in season 1 of Walking Dead. He was the other cop in Walking Dead. He was the Punisher on Netflix. He had the Punisher series on Netflix. He just kind of always plays like these big bruiser type guys. And in this movie, he's a tennis coach and he has like just these weird acting choices, personality tics. I don't know if he's impersonating the real life person he's playing, but I just really enjoyed everything he was throwing on screen. Like just the overall performance. I thought it was above and beyond what it had to be, and it made a character that's kind of just somebody to move the plot along, kind of, and turned him into living and breathing person. And I really enjoyed that about him, especially since they didn't do that much with the girls. So maybe that's why I appreciate like the performance of what's her name? The wife in the movie. What's her name? She was a great actress. I should really find it. Does she not have the same last name? She doesn't have the Williams last name. Anyway, the actress that played Will Smith's wife was awesome in it as well. And then you have Will Smith not being too distracting with his choices as well. I like the acting overall. And kid acting that just stayed out of the way of what the adults were doing. And yeah, it was long, but it was like not annoyingly long. It didn't feel unnecessarily long. More like, I bet if I was in a movie theater, it would have felt unnecessarily long. But
Okay.
being able to watch this at home, even though I didn't start and stop it, it was a total casual, enjoyable watch for me, and a nice surprise.
Yeah, it was way more fun to watch than I was expecting, and I honestly walked away with a better impression of the Williams sisters. And I totally would watch like a ESPN 30 for 30 about the same story.
Absolutely, for sure. So this movie, the end result for you is that you no longer dislike Serena Williams. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, no. So I would just say that I again, I'm not a tennis watcher or much of a sports watcher, right? So my opinions on them are very shallow.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like when they pop up in the news, it's because they like, one of them, I don't know which one again because I don't follow this very much, but recently, like a couple years ago, was playing like the top match against a woman who like is just kind of introverted and shy, and a call didn't go her way or something. The line judge um had some call against Serena Williams, or I think it was Serena, and she just blew up at the line judge, and it ended up losing the title, and it went to the other tennis player, and it just seemed like bad sportsmanship to me. It's like she's just like so mad and angry. Really seemed like the kids in the movie that the dad is saying like, "Oh, don't ever be like them,"
Mhm.
And those are just little impressions I had. It's like, man, if you're the best in the world, like undeniably, everyone knows it. Just be, be cool. don't
Sure.
don't just get super mad at people.
Yeah. I don't watch tennis. Never seen a full Venus or Serena Williams match. And so I don't know anything about them beyond this movie.
Sure.
I mean, I know they were tennis players. I know they were good. I remember it being a big deal that they kept winning. And they pretty much took over the sport for like a decade. And that's all I know. So I hadn't heard that somebody got angry at a match once that you watched. I do remember John McEnroe. Do you remember that name? He was
Yeah.
like legendarily a hothead, and he was a tennis player. And he used to like throw his racket at the
Yeah.
judges and stuff like that.
See, no, thank you.
So, see, I don't think Serena Williams was even close to like what John McEnroe used to be.
Well, I don't like
Or
either of
else-
that. I don't like that behavior.
Sure, yeah. But John McEnroe's in this movie, like right at the beginning.
Yeah, he is.
They're like, John McEnroe. Who was the other player?
They're kind of
Roger-
making fun of him.
Roger Federer or somebody like that.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I forget who. All right. Anything else for King Richard, or should we letterbox it? What do you think, Zach?
I'd love to know how much of this is like roughly what happened and how much of it is like cinematic kind of judging.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would.
Nice. And it was a good Julie movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you watch the whole
She
thing?
She had to leave the room at one point.
Because of the content?
Yeah.
Ooh, is it a spoiler? Or can you give a
No.
warning out there?
Well, just she's sensitive to too much violence.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. It's violent, but it's not like crazy. But
Sure.
I get it. Some people don't want to see any of it, so I get it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's letterbox King Richard. I gave it 4 stars.
So did I.
Nice. 2 4-star ratings for King Richard. Let's move on to our next movie. This is a movie on Netflix. You can stream it right now. It's titled Tick, comma, Tick, ellipses, Boom, exclamation exclamation point. Here's a clip.
This is the life of Bo 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 Bo. This is the life of Bo 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 Bo. This is the life of Bo 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 Bohemia. Showers in the kitchen, there might be some soap. Dishes in the sink, brush your teeth if you can cope. Toilets in the closet, you better hope there's a light bulb in there.
Not today.
Revolving door roommates, prick up your ears. 14 people in just 4 years. Anna, Max, and Jonathan, and Carolyn, and Carrie. David, Tim, no, Tim was just a guest from June to January. Margaret, Lisa, David, Susan, Stephen, Joe, and Sam. And Elsa, the bill collector's dream who still is on the lam. Don't forget the neighbors, Michelle and Gay. Then a family. Hey, the time is flying and everything.
That was Tick, Tick, Boom, a 2021 American biographical musical drama directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, based on the play Tick, Tick, Boom by Jonathan Larson. The movie stars Andrew Garfield, Alexandra Shipp, Robin DeJesus, Joshua Henry, Judith Light, and Vanessa Hudgens, amongst others. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Tick, Tick, Boom is: on the cusp of his 30th birthday, a promising young theater composer navigates love, friendship, and the pressures of life as an artist in New York City. What did you think of Tick, Tick, Boom, Zach? You suggested this movie.
I did, yeah. I'm more curious about your thoughts first, just because I know you're not really a musical fan.
Okay, sure. I enjoyed this movie. It's not going to be another La La Land for me, if that's what you're looking for. It's definitely not that. But I was not actively annoyed by the musical elements of the movie. I think it helped that there's a wrapper of a stage performance. And so it's not like there are moments in the movie where people should be acting normal, and then they break into mostly song. Really not much dance in this movie, but mostly song. And it was okay because it's a guy, the wrapper of it is there's a guy in somewhat of a one-man show type of thing, even though he has like supporting musicians and singers. But it's mostly like a monologue given by one guy who's just telling about his experience. So some of the musical elements that happen over the course of telling that experience made sense to me because they would intercut them with him on stage telling the story. And so he's telling the story to an audience in the movie in a sing-songy kind of way. So it's okay that the characters occasionally dip into sing-songy ways. So I did enjoy that setup, and I think it helped me along with the more musical elements of the movie. As far as like comparing it to recent musicals that I've seen, I enjoyed this a lot more than In the Heights, probably because of that wrapper. Probably because I don't know anything about Jonathan Larson. I don't know anything about the plays that he wrote or anything. All I knew was Andrew Garfield was in this movie, and he sings, and it's based on a guy it's based on a real life guy. And so I had seen like a Wired video a week ago that Andrew Garfield put out for promotion. It had some clips in it. I was like, oh, I'll watch that someday. And so when you suggested it, I was like, yeah, I was already interested in it. So if the question was, did I like it? The answer is yes. Did I love it? I don't know. How about you?
I wasn't gonna watch this movie. I saw it on Netflix. I knew nothing about it. Just the title turned me off completely. And then I was on Letterboxd and I saw a bunch of my Letterboxd friends had watched it, and all of them had rated it positively.
Mm-hmm.
And most of their responses were like, "I can't believe I liked this," or like, I really wanted Andrew Garfield to fail in this, but it was good.
Wow. Who are you following on Letterboxd? What a bunch of sourpusses.
It's all sourpusses.
Jeez.
And
these people hate movies? Are they just hate watching movies, hoping they fail?
Yeah, either that or they hate Andrew Garfield.
Sure.
So that was like, oh, now I'm intrigued. Then I actually read what it was about,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about the writer of Rent. And I really liked Rent the movie a
Mm.
ton. I used to listen to that soundtrack all the time. And so then instantly I was interested. And so then I started watching it and I was like, yeah, I'm into this.
Mhm.
Have you seen Rent?
I have not.
Okay, interesting.
Do you think I should?
I don't think you'll like Rent
Okay.
because Rent is a musical. I mean, people just start singing and dancing.
Sure. I mean, La La Land is a musical.
Yes, but La La Land is special. It you know what I mean? For sure. There's one scene in Rent that I think you would absolutely love.
Mhm.
Um,
And I
but
didn't.
otherwise,
I didn't hate In the Heights. Like, would Rent be
Sure.
on par with In the Heights?
I like Rent. I didn't like In the Heights very much at
Okay.
all, and I think that Rent is a lot better than In the Heights.
Okay.
Personally, I will also say this: this movie, Tick Tick Boom, is constantly foreshadowing Rent.
Okay.
So like
Interesting.
everything that happens to him is like a scene in Rent.
Hmm.
Do you
Maybe
know?
it's
Like
good that I hadn't seen Rent then, because
Yeah.
everything I saw was new to me.
felt very organic. Yeah, there's all these little Easter eggs. Like his power goes out, and then he is on the phone and he lights a candle and puts it on. Like all of that is just like little nods to Rent, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
It's kind of the sense of like, when the his agent tells him write what you know.
Mhm.
It's like a Kaiser Soze looking at the bulletin board kind of a thing. Which I was fine with. It's kind of fun to like, oh, look, there's that part kind of a thing. I found myself really enjoying this. I mean, the movie has an exuberance to it, right? You get the sense that Andrew Garfield is playing Jonathan Larson, that he's just like a talented theater kid, right? Who's just living his New York life. And it's kind of fun to watch him and his bohemian friends, struggle that early 90s life. And yeah, I was totally into it. I thought the movie was very clever about how it handled its music, especially with the rapper, the stage performance. There'd be like scenes where he's fighting with his girlfriend, and then it would cut to him acting out like a cabaret style argument with his girlfriend,
Mhm.
and it would cut back and forth, and it just worked really well together. And I thought this was a way better use of Lin-Manuel's talents than In the Heights was. And I think Andrew Garfield did an awesome job. I still am always shocked that he's British. Just because he plays an American so well.
Yeah, he does.
And
for sure.
in fact, all the acting was great. And, little things like Sondheim is in this movie,
Mhm.
and he just died. And so it was, I felt fitting that I was watching a movie about Stephen Sondheim, or watching a movie with Stephen Sondheim in it,
Mhm.
like right after he died. I'm glad that I did something to, because he wrote West Side Story. So it's just nice to have those little bits a part of it. So yeah, I found myself really enjoying the film. I think I'll watch it again at some point. I liked it.
Yeah, Bradley Whitford as Stephen Sondheim was, I mean, he didn't have much to do in the movie, but every time he showed up on screen, it was like they did a good job of making it feel like his presence was important.
Yes.
And considering I've watched every season of The West Wing, the fact that you could lose yourself in Bradley Whitford in this movie that he's barely in was kind of impressive that they got away with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know what would have put it over the top for me, because I did enjoy my time with the movie, and I enjoyed kind of like trying to pick apart the way it was telling the story, because I think I don't know, maybe there's other examples of one man plays, or I don't know, what do you call these? When people just kind of do monologues. I don't know.
I don't know. A review. I have no idea.
I don't know what you call them, but like versions of this where somebody is performing theater in front of a crowd, and then you play it out across the course of the film, and you use instead of them being a narrator, they're literally on a stage talking to a crowd. There's probably other examples of that, but I can't really think of one. And it worked really well here in kind of bridging the gap between musical and and whatever you would call this. I don't know. I guess it's a musical. It kind of reminds me of like watching Bo Burnham, because he's a musical guy, right? There's not too many, at least in the recent special he had. What was that called? Alone or something? I don't remember. Bo Burnham. What?
The one that just came out.
Yeah, the one that just came out. I forget the name
Yeah.
of it. But that one,
Inside.
he talks to the camera, but it's mostly music, right? It's mostly a performance, and it's entirely one person's performance, right? And not that that's a stage play, but you could easily see somebody performing that on a stage in front of a group of people. He's not really telling a story. Bo Burnham isn't. I mean, he's telling like a, I don't know. He has a point to what he's doing, but it's not like here's plot A or plot B, and this happened and then that happened. I don't know where I'm going with this. Just that
I have no idea where you're going.
I know, that's why I need to rewind this. But it's I enjoyed the rapper, but I'm not sure what would have made it better for me. Like, what keeps this from being like a 5-star movie versus what I gave it? I don't know. I knew nothing about Jonathan Glazer?
Larson.
What? Jonathan Larson. And now I do. And I got from the movie that he was very talented and on the verge of really big things. And that's what the movie gave to me. And Andrew Garfield was really good in it. I never fully forgot that it was Andrew Garfield, but I thought the performance was charming, and that all of that came across in the movie, that like the person he's playing is a talented, charming person who just hasn't had the stars align yet, type of thing, even though he's trying to. And yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. And I was not actively annoyed like I am normally with musicals.
That's good. If I could compare and contrast this with King Richard, right? Both of them are people right before they are recognized internationally as like one of the best there is at what they do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Rent was like the biggest thing on Broadway ever.
And that's what he did right after this play.
Yeah. Well, I think there's one in the middle, and after Tick Tick Boom Boom, yeah. Okay. Or Tick Tick Boom, yeah. But this play is about the musical he wrote before Tick Tick Boom, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so both of them kind of share that kind of subject matter. I will say this movie, we see so much that he is just this driven in, like, his whole life is centered around this. It's all he thinks about. When he's in an argument with his girlfriend, he's writing song lyrics in his head. And we absolutely get that from this movie. Like, he is focused on what he is doing. And we actually see him be very talented in the film. Like, he sings very clever songs. And he's writing, actually, like, the musical that he's writing in the movie is actually like good,
Sure.
Whereas in King Richard, we are definitely told that she is going to be one of the greatest players in the world, and that she's super focused. But really, it's her dad in the movie who's presented as the one that's like single-mindedly focused and disciplined. A lot of times, their daughters are just kind of along for the ride. We don't see the scenes where they're like waking up at 3 a.m. on their own initiative to go train in the rain. It's they're doing whatever their dad tells them to. Whereas like in Tick Tick Boom, Andrew Garfield is a creative force to be reckoned with, and he will either explode or be successful.
Yeah. I think they got all of that across very well. It is interesting that there is a through line between these two movies. That it's like, I mean, I guess a lot of biopics do this, where it's like you're either telling the full story, you're telling the tragic end, or you're telling before they got famous. And both of these movies kind of take that before they got famous approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was into it. Now, two things I if I had criticisms, one would be I don't remember any of the music from it. Like I remember it being good and like it pushing the story along, but I didn't feel like any one song was like particularly special or has me running to Spotify to listen to the soundtrack or anything like that. I think it served the story well, but not like La La Land inspired in me for sure. Uh, although they are similar, they're about creative people who want to do creative things. So there is a similar subject matter between La La Land, my favorite musical of all time, and this one. And then the other thing is the title, while I understand it's based on a play, is awful.
It's bad.
It was probably bad back then, and they probably kept it because that's the name of the play. You know what I mean? And people who know the play will be interested because of the title, but people who don't know the play, who I would submit are the vast, vast, vast majority, will see that title and not have a clue what this is about. And to some people, they'll watch it thinking it's some kind of weird thriller and be disappointed that it's not that. And to other people, they'll I don't know. They'll watch it. I don't know what other people would be doing. You either
I
know
was
what it
turned
is
off by the title. I wasn't going to watch it strictly by the title.
because you assumed it was some like second-rate Netflix thriller, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Right.
Didn't care.
Sure. Did you see the poster of Andrew Garfield sitting at a or did you
Yeah,
just see
it
the
made me
title?
think. It made me think of what is that movie with Frodo where he has to keep playing piano, otherwise he'll be shot?
Sure. I think that was Tick Tick Blam.
Tick Tick Blam. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
It's like the pianoist or something like that.
I'm looking it up.
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's the Elijah Wood piano thriller.
Yeah, I absolutely know what you're talking about, and it recently hit a streaming service because Letterboxd notified me.
Grand Piano.
Grand Piano. What an awful, awful name.
But still better than Tick Tick Boom.
I don't know. I mean, this movie, at least Grand Piano, they should swap titles between this movie and that movie, right? Because then it would be appropriate. The other movie should be Tick Tick Boom because that's what the movie's about. Time ticking and then the piano is going to explode. I understand the context of why it works in this movie too. But and then Grand Piano, I mean, that's all this movie, that's all he did was play the grand piano through the whole movie. I mean, that's not all he did, but he did it a lot.
Yeah.
The other criticism I had was like, so you're walking through Central Park, you get to like this big amphitheater. There's a piano on stage under a tarp.
Yeah.
You pull the tarp off, you start playing music. It starts raining on the piano and you don't put the tarp back on it and stop playing music.
Yeah.
It seemed like a real musician who like was already trespassing and playing a piano you're probably not supposed to be playing. Wouldn't you be like, I don't want to ruin this piano. I'm going to put the tarp back on like the moment it starts sprinkling.
I had the same exact thought. It's like, put the tarp back on, man. It's raining. It's pouring now.
Yeah. I get they were like going for dramatic effect, but I got to be honest. It took me out. I was like, what? This is so irresponsible.
I think it's okay to just say that character had a good amount of selfishness in him.
That's true. Yeah. I think they depicted
pretty
that.
self-absorbed.
They depicted that in multiple ways for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a gentle balance that I think they hit was that he was a complicated person. He wasn't a devious person or like an evil person for sure. He's just a complicated person like most creative people are. And but they managed to show that he had issues like normal people do and also could still be a charming individual.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a good-hearted person. And I liked all of that. Yeah, it was good. in Rent, is there a lot about his friends and like the community and
Yeah, Rent's about AIDS.
Okay. I wondered because at the beginning of the movie, I thought he was gay, and then they very quickly dispel any of that. And then I was like, I thought I had heard Rent was about, like, I thought the guy who wrote Rent had died of AIDS. And turns out, nope, didn't happen that
He
way.
did not. Yeah, he did not. Yeah, Rent is about living in New York, not being able to pay your rent,
Mhm.
and people you love are dying of AIDS, and no one's talking about it.
Yeah. Are there any good documentaries about that happening in New York in the 80s and early 90s? Because like
man,
I
I'm
know it was
sure.
like way worse than anybody talked about because the media was just asleep at the wheel type of thing.
Mhm.
And like Hollywood and people making stories about stuff that matters at the time did not take value in that story being told. Maybe in like Philadelphia, there's a couple of examples, but I know it was just brutal to be in that environment in that time period. I'm just curious if there's anything that I could watch that would educate me because I don't know enough about it for sure.
So the documentary that I've heard of, I
Mhm.
just looked up AIDS epidemic documentaries, and this one I've definitely heard of. So it's like a famous one. It's How to Survive a Plague,
Okay.
and that's about the 80s and the AIDS epidemic.
I will add it to the watch list.
How to Survive a Plague. It has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice. Awesome. Now, this movie and King Richards, did either of them ever make you emotional?
Neither of them ever made me emotional.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference between like a 4 and like a 5. Is like if you can't get me there, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be manipulated into it, but if you can get me there without me feeling that way, then you've really made something. And it's not that these are bad; they didn't fully get there.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though you could tell there were moments both of them were trying pretty hard.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's letterbox tick tick boom. I gave it a 3.5.
I give it a 4.
Nice. A 3.5 and a 4 for tick tick boom. That's the episode for this week. Thanks for hanging out with us and listening to this episode 506. Don't forget, find us on YouTube, watch us there, support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Leave us an Apple Podcast review, send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, or you could follow us on social media at Cinereelists, or you could follow me on my Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Shoppin.
Yeah, and really, you should definitely do that because this week, Zach was testing out a new Twitter feature where you can like have a little like conference call basically that's open for anybody to listen to. And he just started what is it called? Twitter Live or something?
I don't know what they're calling it. It's like Clubhouse, but Twitter's version of it.
Right. So Zach started a chat room basically for people to discuss
Spaces.
Twitter Spaces. Zach created a chat room for people to talk about Disney's Robin Hood, and my phone notified me, and so I jumped in. And then who was it? Logan.
Yeah.
Logan, friend of the show, Logan jumped in as well, and we just had a 2-on-1 conversation with a listener for like a solid half hour or so. It was fun.
That's great.
You only get that if you follow us.
He
Twitter.
made a movie recommendation, a listener suggestion.
Yeah.
In the Twitter Spaces, and that counts.
Do you remember what it was? The Rush
it was
documentary.
The Rush documentary. I've already watched it, and so I'll include in the next Last and Top 10 we do.
Nice. What number is it? 10, 9?
Can't tell you.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna have to wait.
Guess we'll have to wait. How close are you to a top 10 last 10? Really far away or not bad?
No idea.
Okay. I'm ready whenever because I didn't get to do the last one. So I'm like 20,
that's right.
I'm like 25 movies in. I'm ready whenever you guys are. No pressure,
awesome.
but
Okay.
I'm ready to go. All right.
That's funny.
We will be back next week, probably with Kyle, and maybe we'll have seen the new Guillermo del Toro movie, Nightmare Alley. We're not sure if it'll be that week or the week after, because people have to make it to the theater in order to talk about that one. But if you want to do a little bit of pre-watching, we will get to Nightmare Alley at some point, so check that out, and we'll see you guys next week. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.